Imagine for a moment a world without the immense territory we now recognize as Russia. Picture endless forests, rolling plains, and icy rivers stretching as far as the eye can see, untamed, mysterious, and largely unknown to the outside world. Before Russia became the sprawling nation we know today, these lands were a patchwork of isolated villages, wild frontiers, and ancient forests, shrouded in mist and legend. In the heart of this wilderness stood Muscovy, a small but ambitious kingdom in the 16th century. Its capital, Moscow, was a fortress city, its wooden walls a symbol of both protection and the desire to grow stronger. Muscovy was not yet the Russia of legend, but it was a kingdom finding its feet, forging its identity in a world of shifting powers. Having recently thrown off the yoke of Mongol domination, the rulers of Muscovy, known as Tsars, were determined to secure their place among the great powers of Europe and Asia. Their ambition was fueled by a hunger for land, resources, and recognition. The Tsars saw themselves as heirs to both the Byzantine and Mongol legacies, blending Eastern and Western traditions in their quest for greatness. Life in Muscovy was deeply rooted in the land. Society was rigidly structured. At the top stood the Tsar, followed by powerful nobles, and below them, the vast majority, peasants who toiled in the fields. The rhythms of daily life were dictated by the seasons, the church, and the demands of survival in a harsh climate. Yet even in this feudal world, stories of distant lands and untold riches sparked the imagination. Whispers traveled through the villages and courts, tales of mysterious lands beyond the Ural Mountains, where furs, gold, and adventure awaited. The Urals marked the edge of the known world, a natural barrier separating Europe from the vast, uncharted territories of Asia. For many, these stories were little more than legend, but for the Tsars, they represented opportunity. Ivan the Terrible, the first Tsar to claim the title of emperor, was determined to transform Muscovy into a centralized, powerful state. Through reforms, ruthless tactics, and sheer force of will, he brought the nobility to heel and established a government strong enough to pursue bold ambitions. Under Ivan's rule, the dream of expansion became a concrete plan. The question facing Muscovy was no longer if it would expand, but where its ambitions would take it. The Tsar's gaze turned eastward, toward the vast, untamed lands that promised both danger and reward. The answer lay in Siberia, a land of endless forests, frozen rivers, and unimaginable wealth. It was a perfect storm. Political will, economic desire, and the lure of the unknown all converged. The Tsars saw an opportunity to secure resources, control trade routes, and cement their legacy. And so, the stage was set for one of the most dramatic expansions in world history. Bands of explorers, traders, and Cossacks prepared to cross the Urals, braving the elements and the unknown in search of fortune and glory. Their journeys would reshape not only Russia but the entire map of Eurasia. Russia stood at a crossroads, poised between Europe and Asia, ready to venture deep into the heart of a continent. The choices made in these years would echo through centuries, setting the stage for the rise of a global power. Before Russian adventurers, Siberia was a vibrant world of diverse cultures. This immense territory was a realm of forests, steppes, and tundra, with rivers as lifelines. Peoples like the Khanty, Mansi, Yakuts, and Nenets thrived here, each with unique languages and beliefs. Shamanism connected many cultures, fostering respect for nature. Politically, Siberia was a patchwork of societies and the Khanate of Sibir, a Muslim state. However, its power was limited, and Siberia was largely decentralized. The indigenous peoples had never faced a unified, technologically superior force. They were about to meet one. Russia's march into the wilderness was driven by wealth, power, and security. Siberia promised solutions to Russia's problems and rewards beyond imagination. Economically, Russia needed wealth like the empires of Western Europe. Siberia's furs, the soft gold, were in high demand, promising vast profits. Politically, more land meant more resources and prestige. Expanding into Siberia was a statement of power and influence. Strategically, it secured Russia's borders against nomadic Khanates. The conquest was a preemptive strike to define Russia's sphere of influence. It created strategic depth, protecting the Russian heartland. The conquest of Siberia was about ensuring Russia's place among great powers. It was a calculated gamble that paid off. The pursuit of fur was the most immediate and powerful reason for Russia's relentless push eastward across the vast frozen expanses of Siberia. In the 17th century, as European demand for luxury goods soared, Russian explorers, traders, and adventurers were drawn by the promise of immense wealth hidden in the thick forests and icy rivers of the east. The lure of fur, especially the prized sable, became an obsession that shaped the destiny of a nation. Fur was not just a commodity, it was a symbol of status, wealth, and power. Sable pelts, with their deep, lustrous sheen, were coveted by royalty and aristocrats across Europe and Asia. These luxurious furs commanded astonishing prices, often worth more than their weight in gold, and became a form of currency in their own right. Recognizing the immense value of this trade, the Russian state quickly moved to control it. The Tsar's treasury swelled with the profits from fur, funding not only the lavish lifestyles of the elite, but also the machinery of government and expansion. Revenue from fur was the lifeblood of the empire, supporting the administration, building fortresses, and maintaining a powerful military presence in the newly conquered lands. The insatiable hunt for fur drove waves of Russians deeper into Siberia. Adventurers, trappers, and Cossacks braved harsh winters, treacherous rivers, and unknown dangers, all in pursuit of the next great fortune. Their journeys opened up vast new territories, forever altering the map of Russia. To secure their gains, they built fortified lodges and settlements, gradually extending Russian control over the immense Siberian landscape. These outposts became centers of trade, administration, and sometimes conflict. But the relentless demand for fur came at a steep cost. Animal populations, especially sable, were decimated, and the delicate balance of the taiga was disrupted. Indigenous peoples who had lived in harmony with the land for centuries found their way of life under threat. The Russians imposed a harsh fur tribute known as yasak on native tribes, forcing them to hand over the best pelts each year. This system was deeply exploitative, stripping indigenous communities of their resources and autonomy. Enforcement was brutal. Violence, intimidation, and the taking of hostages were common tactics used to ensure compliance. Entire communities could be punished for failing to meet quotas, and resistance was often met with deadly force. In the end, the quest for fur did more than enrich the Russian state. It financed the conquest of Siberia, transforming it into an imperial frontier. But this expansion brought suffering and subjugation to the land and its people. The story of Russia's fur trade is one of dazzling wealth and stark exploitation, a tale of ambition, greed, and the high price paid by those who stood in the empire's path. Beyond fur, the conquest was deeply strategic. Siberia was a vast buffer zone and a platform for projecting power. Securing Russia's frontiers was a primary goal, outflanking nomadic raiders. The conquest created immense strategic depth, protecting Moscow. The Tsars knew if they didn't claim Siberia, another power might. It was a race to plant the flag and declare Siberia part of Russia. Reaching the Pacific made Russia a two-continent empire. This opened trade and diplomacy with the Far East. Siberia transformed Russia's geopolitical identity. It was a bridge between Europe and Asia, shaping its destiny. The Cossacks, renowned as daring adventurers and rugged frontiersmen, played a pivotal role in Russia's dramatic push into the vast, untamed lands of Siberia. These fiercely independent warriors were not just soldiers, but explorers and settlers, carving out new paths where few dared to venture. Their reputation for bravery and resilience made them the ideal vanguard for the Russian state's ambitions. At the forefront of this movement stood Yermak Timofeyevich, a legendary Cossack chieftain. Hired by powerful Russian merchants to secure the volatile eastern borders against the Khanate of Siberia, Yermak was tasked with a mission that would change the course of Russian history. His leadership and tactical skill quickly earned him the loyalty of his men and the attention of Moscow. In 1582, Yermak led his band of Cossacks across the formidable Ural Mountains, armed with the latest firearms and an unbreakable resolve. Facing the powerful forces of Khan Kuchum, Yermak's men fought with determination and cunning, ultimately defeating the Khan's army in a series of fierce battles. This victory shattered the power of the Khanate of Siberia and marked a turning point in the conquest of Siberia. Yermak's triumph opened the door to the endless wilderness of Siberia, making it possible for Russian settlers and soldiers to move eastward into lands previously ruled by local Khans and tribes. The conquest of these territories promised new resources, wealth, and opportunities for the Russian state. Recognizing the importance of his victory, Yermak sent envoys to Tsar Ivan the Terrible, offering the newly conquered lands as tribute. This bold gesture secured the support of the Russian crown which began to send reinforcements and supplies to solidify control over Siberia. Although Yermak himself was killed in battle in 1585, his legacy endured. His death did not halt the Russian advance. Instead, it inspired others to continue his work, pushing ever deeper into the Siberian frontier. Motivated by Yermak's daring exploits, new waves of Cossacks and Russian troops followed in his footsteps, braving harsh climates and unknown dangers as they expanded the empire's reach. What began as a private venture soon became a state-sponsored project. The Russian government recognized the strategic and economic value of Siberia, and official support for further expeditions grew rapidly. Yermak's bold actions paved the way for Russia's relentless march into Siberia, setting the stage for centuries of expansion and colonization. The Cossacks remained the spearhead of this expansion, their courage and adaptability making them indispensable to the Russian advance. As expert horsemen and skilled survivalists, the Cossacks were perfectly suited to conquering the wild, unforgiving landscapes of Siberia, forging new routes and establishing outposts in the name of the Tsar. The Russian state, determined to seize the opportunities Yermak had revealed, pressed forward with unwavering resolve, marching through the door he had so bravely opened and forever altering the destiny of Russia and Siberia alike. After Yermak, the Russian state took a direct role in Siberia's conquest. The strategy was simple: follow Siberian rivers demanding fur tribute. Fortified settlements, or ostrogs, were built as military and administrative hubs. Towns like Tobolsk and Yakutsk grew from these forts. The Russian advance was rapid, reaching the Pacific in less than 60 years. The conquest was not always peaceful, with resistance met by force. Firearms gave Russians a massive advantage in conflicts. Uprisings were brutally suppressed and Yasak enforced through violence. The Siberian Empire was forged with conflict and subjugation. It was a story of maps, forts, and the original inhabitants' struggles. The conquest was systematic and relentless. It was a state-sponsored project of expansion. Siberia's conquest transformed Russia into a Eurasian empire. The profits from fur trade modernized Russia's army and bureaucracy. Siberia's mineral wealth fueled industrialization and economic growth. The empire was built on fur, sustained by mineral riches. The conquest triggered a demographic shift, with millions moving east. Siberia became an integral part of Russia, not just a colony. It was a new frontier woven into the national story. Siberia reshaped Russia's identity, fostering a frontier mentality. The land scale became part of the Russian soul. Russia's identity was now both European and Asian. This dual identity defined its place in the world. Siberia's impact was profound and permanent. The conquest of Siberia echoes in the modern world, shaping Russia's economy and politics. Siberia makes up over 3/4 of Russia's land area. Economically, Siberia remains the engine of the Russian state. Oil and gas reserves are crucial to Russia's economy and global influence. Siberia's resources give Russia leverage in international politics. Strategically, Siberia provides geographic depth and a buffer. The Arctic's melting opens new shipping lanes and resource opportunities. Russia invests in Arctic infrastructure for future power. The conquest raises questions of cultural preservation and land rights. The story of Siberia is a reminder of empire's costs. It is a tale of endurance, ambition, and subjugation. Siberia's story is the untold story of modern Russia.